today I want to talk about this off the top. They ousted Ilhan Omar off the Foreign Affairs Committee. And so now a lot of people are, well, first of all, a lot of people are saying it's because of racism, it's because of this, it's payback. Well, here's what I find very interesting. So Justin Amash tweeted this out. He says, Congress is just political theater. Republicans themselves approved Ilhan Omar's election to the Foreign Affairs Committee just yesterday in a unanimous consent on the House floor. In other words, they put her on the committee only so they could pass a resolution to vote her off. And here's the resolution. It's hilarious. Jeez. There it is. Committee on Foreign Affairs, Ms. Omar. There was no objection. The resolution was agreed to. There it is. So they all just voted for her yesterday, only to vote her off today. Isn't that? Nick, that just goes to show you, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a power movement. Can we take a second to acknowledge the grand irony when you have people who was against forced to vote and you have people who apologize for AOC and the squad? They said, well, they can't be as aggressive as you guys want to be. They can't call out Nancy Pelosi. They can't call out the Democratic Party because if they do, they may lose their committee assignments.
And then they lost their committee assignments anyways. And then they all lost their committees. So Katie Porter got kicked off. AOC got kicked off. It shows they have no strategy. So they have this, they believe that if they're nice to the Democratic Party establishment and the ruling class as a whole, that they somehow going to trick the ruling class into voting their power away and giving people what they want. So they had this idea. It would be nice to them. If we don't represent the workers, we represent their interests. They'll be nice to us. And it proved time and time again that is not the case. So you might as well go all out and represent the workers that didn't kick you off your committees anyway, right? Well, go ahead, Jimmy. You would think. You would think. But they're just that big as spineless self-dealers. They know if they do that, they won't get their book deals. They know if they do that, they won't get on the cover of Vanity Fair. They know if they do that, they won't get biopics made out of them financed by billionaires and Netflix. They don't get, that won't happen. So, and I don't know who financed or that Netflix special. I'm not saying who. I have no idea, but you know what I'm saying. So here's the weird. So that just goes to show you, okay, that the establishment is in the Republican Party. The establishment is in the Democratic Party. The only difference is that the extreme right wing of the Republican Party actually sometimes uses their leverage to get stuff they want. The extreme left wing of the Democratic Party will never do that. It's just not the way it's going to go. So what's also interesting about this, Nick, is watch this. This is Matt Gaetz talking about Ilhan Omar being kicked off, and listen to what he says.
Ilhan Omar didn't lie about our intelligence agencies. She didn't say that Trump was a Russian agent based on information from a particular committee that was just totally bogus. The reason I think a lot of Republicans want to kick Ilhan Omar off of the Foreign Affairs Committee is because they don't like what she has to say. So and like I was just saying to you—
you believe she should have remained on that
Foreign Affairs Committee? Undecided on that question because the Democrats moved the Overton window. And I do believe Speaker McCarthy deserves deference, and so I want to hear him out. But I am undecided as of tonight as to whether or not I would vote to remove Ilhan Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee, because it's one thing to do dangerous things to the country with intelligence. It's quite another to say, I don't like your viewpoint, and thus I want to remove you. I don't support that with DirecTV and Newsmax. I didn't support it when it was directed at my friend and colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it makes me uncomfortable that the case against Ilhan Omar, isn't being subjected to any due process. Right? If they think that she's brought discredit on the House, there is actually a House rule where there can be an ethics investigation and there can be a resolution with due process. So I would tend to lean toward giving the Speaker deference. I want to hear him out, but we shouldn't lump Omar and Schiff and Swalwell together in one bucket. Very different with the Intelligence Committee.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm sure a lot of viewers will be surprised to hear that.
They may hate it. They may hate it, but
you'll be hearing from them.
Sometimes you need to hear things you hate. I mean, go watch Ilhan Omar question, Elliot Abrams in the Foreign Affairs Committee about some of the neoconservative policies that were very detrimental in South America. So, like, sometimes, there is a view on foreign policy that isn't, invade everywhere, try to turn every foreign land into a Jeffersonian democracy. And there are times Ilhan makes those arguments, and they're arguments that at times align with America First foreign policy.
Right. Well, I want to ask you because
Wow,
Nick, let me bring in Nick. Go ahead, have a reaction to that because I'm aghast.
Yeah, like you can see the Newsmax anchor was shocked because I don't think she was expecting to hear that. And what did it say that people like Matt Gaetz are allowed to rebuke the party while AOC and the squad are allowed to be are forced to be good little girls for the parties? So what he mentions is an important point because Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff was taking off their
for lying.
Assignment.
They were taking.
So doesn't that disprove that this is a targeted attack on a Somali woman like AOC and the squad is claiming? So what they don't want to happen is they don't want to have a foreign policy conversation. They don't want to have an Israel-Palestine conversation. So instead, and in lieu of doing that, they're pretending that the Republican Party is only doing this because she's a Somali woman, even though the GOP ran a Somali woman against her. So what Matt Gaetz is doing is actually discussing the issues. Which I disagree with you pushing her off the committees, even because she spoke out against war. But AOC and the squad is not doing that because they don't want the conversation to shift around Israel and Palestine. They want it to be about identity politics. Oh my God, they went after me because I'm a Somali woman, even though you should be focusing on the fact that the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and they threw you under the bus for speaking common sense on this issue. And that's my first reaction seeing Matt Gaetz here, because Matt Gaetz makes it about the issues while the squad is making it about performative identity politics that is completely irrelevant in this conversation. So that I got a lot to break down here because that's very surprising to see Matt Gaetz say that, but they need to hear that. They do need to hear that.
Wow.
Yeah, very shocking. Very shocking.
So first of all, I didn't know the GOP ran a Somalian woman against her.
Yeah.
Also, because the people from Somalia are not cool with Ilhan Omar's her support of the who she supports in Somalia and who's go ahead
on Revolutionary Blackout. My co-host CJ, he made a great point where these Somalians want her to be pulled from these foreign.
That's right,
because they would be better off if she was not on there.
That's right.
Rhetorically, as an activist against war, you can say, "Oh my God, look at all these corrupt oligarchs." The white man that is pillaging Africa, but you have Ilhan Omar there she's the Somali that support the U.S. invasion of Somalia. So it's actually harder to resist it with her on the panel. So there's actually a substantive argument that it's a good thing that she got tossed off the panel. I'm not crying any tears because also she haven't accomplished anything for the workers. What have AOC and the squad gained materially for the workers or for the anti-war movement while they're on these committees in the first place?
I would, off the top of my head, nothing. But I could be wrong. But so let me go. So that's just here. It is where Matt Gaetz, an extreme right winger, is actually standing up for Ilhan Omar, who people could be considering an extreme left winger, because they agree on foreign policy. And then even if he disagrees with her on foreign policy, he doesn't think that's a reason to disqualify her, unlike lots of other people. That's just ironic. Hey, we're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, Tempe, Arizona, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Nashville, Northampton, Massachusetts, and a lot more places. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and become a premium member while you're there. You get access to all of our stuff. See you then.